This is a public service announcement. This is a public service announcement. What you're about to listen to may make you yell, shout, smile, and even laugh out loud. Youth baseball players, coaches, and fans join the Slide Podcast crew on their journey to make baseball fun again. Hear stories from players of all ages, plus tips and tricks from coaches and scouts. Now, if you're ready, give us a loud play ball.
Play ball.
That was
Here
good.
we go. We're off and running, Jake. That was good, right? All right, good. That meets our approval. And
Let's go.
Yeah. Welcome to the Slide Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Aaron. And Banana Jake is joining me tonight as my co-host. And this is a Sunday night recording, Jake. This is rare. I put one of those in our availability. And you know what I had to look at first is when the Dolphins played. And then when I thought they were going to lose, I was like, man, how am I going to do a podcast now with the Dolphins lost? And then they pulled it out.
Yep.
So, ha-ha, Lila, ha-ha. Jake, how you been
Good.
doing, man?
How about you?
Hey, man, just trucking along. And I'm doing good, actually. I'm doing really good. I did hear something yesterday, and I want to share this with our listeners and our viewers is I got a message from a really close friend of the show, and they got asked to leave their travel ball program based solely on the dad asking when they were going to get jerseys in. I mean, like I saw the incomplete text exchange, and this owner of this travel ball program, and I'm not going to say any names, and I'm not even going to say where in the country it happened, but like because the dad. And now keep in mind, they started their season this weekend and they still didn't have their jerseys. So dad just asked owner of organization, hey, we spent a lot of money on jerseys. Can I just ask when we're going to get those in? The immediate reaction from the owner was, you know what? I think you and your son may need to go play somewhere else. Now, here's another caveat. His son was supposed to be on the mound for the very first game yesterday. So before that even happened, they were essentially kicked out of the program because that happened.
So they were
blew my mind, man.
They were kicked out at the tournament?
No, beforehand. And then they sent a message out to the rest of the organization saying that essentially chain of command wasn't followed. And you know what? That frustrates me. Does that frustrate you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the one of the dangers that I see in just travel ball. Like there's no one there to regulate what's going on. And even though someone and a child, all right, now take the adult mess out of the way. But now dad has to go tell son as he's getting up, getting ready, getting mentally prepared for being on the mound. He has to go tell him that, hey, dude, you're not taking the mound today and we're no longer a part of this team. Like that's, man, it's hard. It's hard to hear. Yeah. So anyway, so my message is out there for anyone. Like if you run an organization or if you're a parent of an organization, you're in the people business. And at the end of the day, there's a kid. After all the dialogues happen, there is a kid standing there with being kicked off of a team for no reason. And like, think about how you interact with your families. This is a part of your organization. Just think about the kind of message and what you want to teach to your kids. Like that's a part of development as well. Like just that interaction. Oh, well, whatever. All right, dude, I got like one more thing I want to bring up, and it's not like a Debbie Downer, so I apologize for that one. But Paul Skeens, this dude might get inside the batter's box. You think he's the next Shohei?
I want to say the next Shohei, but I don't think he can hit as good, but he could hit decently.
Did you see his stats when he actually was a hitter? He was
when he was with who was he with? The Air Force.
Mm-hmm. He from 21 to 22 for the Air Force, he hit 367, 125 hits, 24 home runs, and 81 RBIs. That's, hey, you know what? I mean, this dude is valuable on the mound. Like I'd hate for something happening.
If he goes back to catcher, that would be cool.
So he was actually a catcher before he was a dominant pitcher? I didn't know that.
Well, I
Okay.
think he is.
Well, who knows? He might. Who knows? But like, I think it's a common thing, man. You know what? If you can pitch and you can swing a bat, you might get the possibility of stepping in the
Yeah.
box. So, I mean, that's pretty cool though, because you're a
Yeah.
pitcher and you also hit some
Yeah.
dingers. So, I mean, like 30 something, I think, to count today. I don't even know the number, but I think it's like high
Yeah.
20s,
It's
right?
like 25.
Yeah. More than I ever hit. So, all right. Well, let's get to our guest, man, because this is a very exciting guest for our show. And we welcome in from Little Falls, New Jersey, Billy Pinkney. How you doing,
Let's
sir?
go. No, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's awesome to be here on the show. I've been following you guys for a while now and doing a great job. So it's a pleasure to
Thank
be
you.
on here.
Thank you very much, man. Well, look, man, there is so much to talk about. You have lived and seen baseball and throughout the globe. So, start with just telling our listeners, if they're not familiar with you, Billy the Bat Boy. If they're not familiar with you, tell us who you are.
Sure. Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm from a small town in New Jersey, and the name Billy the Bat Boy is exactly how I got my start. I was just a regular kid who loved baseball and loved the game. And in order to find a way to get closer to it, we had a minor league independent baseball team 10 minutes from where I lived in the same town, just the other side of that town.
Mm-hmm.
And the perfect way to get involved would be to become a bat boy and see what ways can I get involved? What ways can I continue to learn the game at a young age?
Mm-hmm.
And I was 11 years old at the time, and they happened to need some bat boys for the 2013 season. And I was plugged right into that rotation. And it was the best decision I made, just to be around professional players and learn the game from guys who have played at some of the highest levels in our game.
Yeah.
And I did that for a couple years. And then I thought, you know what? I really like this opportunity. I like the environment. How else can I grow within this game? What can I do to create a career path in this game of baseball? So I figured, you know what? I have the access to the players. I'm in the clubhouse and the dugout with them. Let's try to interview them. Let's drop some questions. And before or after batting practice, I'll go and talk to them and record it on my phone at the time.
Yeah.
And it was just a great opportunity. And I just tried to continue to improve that skill set and learn how to edit them, because if I did the interview, I'd have to find a way to put it together with other ones and put it somewhere. So I created the YouTube channel, the social media pages and everything. And it just evolved and it grew and just took a lot of consistent effort. And ultimately, I was with the New Jersey Jackals for a decade, and I left a couple years ago. But we won a championship. I did a lot of media work with them ultimately when they got a video board for the stadium. They needed somebody to do it, so I was there already and just took advantage of that opportunity. And yeah, so that's really how I got my start. Just fortunate to have a minor league team in the area looking for people to contribute.
Yeah.
And that was really the way it got all started. And I ended up going to college on that campus. There was a college right there, and it was a great time at Montclair State and playing club ball there and just having fun, enjoying my last few years of playing baseball. And then I ultimately published a book last year to help youth players, and it was pretty much a compilation of those interviews that I did when I was younger. So it was just a nice full circle moment and just a great career so far, the first decade or so. A lot of cool memories.
Dude, all right. So this is the most impressive part, Billy, is you started that journey at 11 years old. Like, little did you know at that age, at that first game where you're picking up one of those bats, that was going to lead you down a path that now, I mean, who would have predicted? I mean,
Yeah.
It's impressive. It's impressive that 11 years old, you were a bat boy. At 16, if I'm not mistaken, you were part of player procurement.
Yeah, that's right.
Like at 16, really? Like
Some people
evaluating talent?
Yeah, I was, and I was fortunate to have a manager there who actually allowed me to help him out. You might think some people might be, well, what are you doing? What does a 16-year-old or 17-year-old kid know about finding players for a professional team? What does he know about evaluating talent? But I guess just being in the dugout for so many years, just observing and realizing, you know what, this is the kind of guy we need. That's the kind of guy we need. I was able to help him out a little bit, send him some players, and that was a really interesting experience as well, because it helped me with the business side a little bit and the
Yeah.
inner workings, the GM mentality. So it was really fun. And yeah, it's funny. I had a professor in college say, you were doing night games at 11 years old. Like, you were getting home at 10:30, 11 at night. I was like, you know what? That sounds about right. I didn't even think about that. It was way past my bedtime at that age, but
Yeah.
it was fun. I wanted to be the last one in the clubhouse when the players left. I just love being there. Like, it didn't matter the time. I just wanted to be there. And that's the kind of passion you need if you want to play this game for a while or work in the game.
I mean, honestly, that's a message for everyone out there,
Yeah.
though. You know what? If you want something, you pursue it, and like, don't let anybody stop you. And
Right.
that's for everyone out there. Jake, you're 12. Like, we already missed the cutoff for you, but if you're 12 right now, you could be doing something today that could change the future of your life. And such a great point around, like, whatever you're doing, invest time, energy, and be passionate about it. Don't just take a job and just do the minimum. Like,
No.
commit to it. So, all right,
Absolutely.
Jake, take it over because I'm talking too much.
So I saw that you've interviewed a lot of players and you're talking about it. What's your favorite interview that you've ever done?
Damn, you took my
Wow.
question.
Yeah, it's so many great people I've had the opportunity to meet in interviews, and I always go back to Nick Swisher as being my favorite. And I actually posted a clip of one of my interviews with him today, and he's just a great guy, just the energy. And it's funny because I talked to him back when he was about to retire. He was with the Yankees in AAA, and he was finishing up his career. Had a great experience with him there, just going back and forth, asking him a few questions. And then quite a few years later, had to be about maybe 7 years later, he's now involved with the Baseball United League in Dubai. And I went over there to cover baseball, and he's involved with that as a co-owner. So I got to interview him again this past November. And 7 years later, I'm all of a sudden talking to him again, interviewing him. And he remembered that time back in, I don't know if it was 2016, 17, around there somewhere.
Wow.
And it's just really cool to create relationships. You never know what's going to happen from them. And just once again, someday down the road, meet up with them again and talk to them about whether it's something similar to what you talked to them about the first time or something completely different.
That's
That's
cool.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Jake, who's been your favorite interview so far?
I don't really have a favorite interview. They've all equal. They've been good.
Okay.
All of them.
Yeah. It's super hard, 2.5 years into this and hundreds of guests. It's hard for me to pinpoint my favorite too, because it's just like you said, like, everything is like you learn something different from each interview. So
Absolutely. Everyone's unique. Everyone has a
Yeah.
unique perspective, and what sometimes different people have a different way of delivering it, or maybe some guys don't elaborate as much or are a little bit more short with their answers, but maybe there's some truth in the short answers too. You never know how
yeah.
everyone speaks and how they convey information.
Ooh.
So let me ask you for some advice, and I apologize, Jake. You want to go
I
ahead and finish?
I have my
question, Jake?
favorite. It's either Coach Rack or Nelly.
Oh,
Nice.
okay. Yeah.
That's
Those
awesome.
those are really good
Yeah.
interviews too. So, man, you didn't mess my train of thought up. Oh, I got it. So Billy, we have field reporters on our show. So these are kids just like Banana Jake, young men, young women. I hate calling them kids. And they're out there interviewing. Like, what would you say to these? And we're about to double in size in field reporters. We're about to go 8 to
That's awesome.
probably 18 to 20.
Yeah.
But what advice would you give kids out there that are starting to really experience getting in front of the camera and interviewing?
Yeah, no, I just think back to when I first started, and it's definitely a process. You don't want to be too hard on yourself to be perfect right away, because no one's perfect at all ever.
Yep.
But just getting the reps, getting the experience, I look back and I remember just taking every opportunity possible to speak to players. And even if it's somebody who's a little bit different from your typical interview, maybe there's a different sport, or there's somebody who works in a front office with a team or is a broadcaster, they're still a good subject to talk to, because you never know what you're going to get from speaking to somebody. So I'd say to just try different things. Something that Joe Buck told me, the legendary announcer.
Oh yeah.
He he told me when I talked to him years ago when I was beginning, he told me learn a lot about different industries, different things, whether it's entertainment, music, politics, whatever it is. Be pretty well versed and be exposed to different areas. Not necessarily be an expert. You don't have to be an
Right.
expert in everything, but just understand some different things. So then maybe it will come up in an interview or a conversation, and then you could expand on something that you might not have expected talking about, but it just happens to come up. So
Oh
I'd
yeah.
say just be aware of different things happening in the world around you, and do research. It takes a lot of time to prepare for different interviews sometimes, but the more you prepare and the more work you put in, you're going to fail. There are going to be times where it's challenging, but then you learn from that and you try to apply it to the next time you go out there and talk to people or create content, whatever it is. So there's a lot of trial and error, and I highly recommend just trying a lot of different things, different styles,
Mhm.
what feels best for you, and don't try to imitate anybody else. You know, a lot of times you watch somebody on TV your whole life, or there's different personalities, and you think, "Oh, I want to be like them." You know, they got there because they did it their own way. They have
Their
their own
way.
unique personality. Embrace your own personality and allow that to shine through. And don't feel like you have to be uh, similar to anybody else. Everyone has their unique way of doing it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, just looking at the personalities that we have on our team now, significantly different personalities. I mean,
Yeah,
whether it's just an age thing, it's just different personalities, and that's what I tell every single one of them is don't try to do it another person's way.
right.
Like that won't work for you. And I mean, you can take bits and pieces from 10 different people and help create your style, but like
Absolutely.
it still has to be your style that you're rolling with. So
Sure.
well, man, look, you've been all over the globe. Let's talk about this Dubai thing. Like, so what's going on over there in the Middle East?
There's a lot happening. A lot
Yeah,
happening. I know it's pretty wild to think about. A few years ago, I had no clue. I don't think anyone really thought about this kind of thing happening,
yeah,
and it's just really exciting to see what they're doing. To have so many former major leaguers come together and invest in a league like this in a different continent, in a place where
yeah.
it's really not known to watch the sport of baseball in person. And
Hmm.
they're creating a stadium now. It's called Baseball United, and it's going to be Barry Larkin Field because Barry Larkin,
Oh,
the Reds legend, he's one of the main guys involved with the league. He practically began it probably a few years ago now. And it's really cool to just be a part of it on the media side and have gone out there to the Dubai area to
hmm,
create content last year and to just see what they're doing and trying to give back to the next generation, but at the same time, bring people in here who are very skilled individuals. They want to have the big league veteran players who are established and on their way out later in their careers, like Bartolo
hmm.
Colon, Robinson Cano,
Yeah,
and have them play with guys who are top prospects from these different nations and places that you might not really know have a lot of potential and a lot of players
yeah,
who are coming up. So you have players from Uganda and Pakistan, all these different places,
yeah.
and it's really cool to see. India they have quite a few players, and it was really cool just to see them in person and training hard, and to see what kind of showcase they were able to put on.
Hmm.
And I know they're looking to do a lot more in the future. 2025 is going to be a big year for them. They're
Yeah.
going to have another event in February, and then next November they're looking to do a regular season for the winter ball, about
Okay.
probably a month long. So I'm really looking forward
That's
to it. We'll
good.
see what happens next, but it was
So there's some
definitely something
talent over
interesting.
there, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's some talent, and they have a Dubai Little League over there. They have kids who love baseball, and I was actually surprised with the amount of baseball fans that they had. They had a decent amount of fans. They had the games at a cricket stadium last
Okay.
year, so that was really interesting because they had to completely transform the field from a cricket pitch to a
Hmm.
baseball field. Regulation, and they had a really nice setup for that, and it took a lot of work to import the clay and they use sand from the desert and all these places they had to bring it in from. It was unbelievable.
That's
But
crazy.
yeah, it's really good what they're doing.
I've only seen Dubai from like my Apple TV screensaver and all these like cool movies that do these like aerial shots.
Right.
I mean, is it as jaw dropping as it looks like it is?
It is. It's really interesting because it's very modernized. The whole city seems like it's so new because it
Yeah.
is pretty new. It's more of a modernly built area, and they really built it up from sand. It was a desert, and they
Yeah.
did a great job at just making it a safe, clean city that has a lot of cool attractions. You have the the very very tall building,
Yep.
Burj Khalifa, and then you have the obviously the deserts where you could go out and ride a camel and
Did
things
you
like
get
that.
any sandstorms while you were there?
No, but they did bring us in one of those safaris. Now, when you think of a safari, I think of the zoo and seeing the animals and everything.
Right.
Their version of a safari is totally different. They bring you in one of these cars, one of these trucks, and they drive up and down the sand dunes in the desert. And we were about to
Uh-huh.
throw up. We were getting a little dizzy, but I was like, man, we got to slow this thing down. We're going up and down in these dunes.
So a
But
safari is you're cruising in the desert.
yes, they're bringing us in one of those trucks, and we're going up and down, and it was unbelievable. Just to get us to a nice point to get a nice photo op. That's what it was for.
You know what? I'm still down to go over there, Jake.
I,
You
I want to
down?
go.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, plan it
Let's,
November of 25.
All right.
hey, let's put it on the calendar, Jake.
Let's go.
Yeah, man. All right, Jake, what you got?
So when you're writing your book, what gave you motivation to keep on like typing or writing when you were doing it?
Yeah. So the book, it's one of those projects. Any type of long-term project like that, you have to have a deeper why because it's not instant. It's not an instant gratification thing where
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to start it right now and I'm going to end it by the end of the night. It's not going to happen. So you have to have a deeper why and what you're doing. There has to be something that's really motivating you. And for me, it was just being able to give back to younger players and help young kids who might be going through some adversity. And when I was a young kid, I had fun playing the game. Once I got to high school, didn't have as much fun playing the game. Dealt with a lot of situations that it was just, things where you're dealing with people and coaches who don't have your best interest in mind. I'm sure you see that with travel ball
Yeah.
a lot. And you know how that is, how that can get. So, I had the professional players tell me one thing and give me advice. And then I had other people, coaches, and whether it's teammates or players, tell me a whole different thing. And I want to listen to the players who played professionally, who I worked with, because they obviously are there for a reason, and
That's right.
they're helping me improve my game in a positive way. So I definitely gained some inspiration from those experiences. But then I figured as I moved on to college and I had a lot of fun playing club ball there that, I have so many interviews. I've done a lot of these with questions that pertain to how to navigate these situations. Why not put it in a book and I'll add some more interviews. I'll do some more throughout this off season and then I'll get it ready to go in the summer. So that's what I did. I just continued to bang out interviews and grab some different topics that I felt were more applicable to the topics and spoke to some great people and professionals who had wonderful things to say. And that's ultimately what it was. It took a long time, about 10 months. Some books take longer than that, but it felt like a project that made a whole lot of sense for me to pursue. And that's what keeps you going. If you know the deeper meaning behind it, it helps out a whole lot.
Yeah. I mean, writing a book isn't easy.
No, it's not. But what did help though is that a lot of the information in it wasn't from me myself because I was asking a lot of players for the responses, the answers to the questions. So we actually have it right here. But
Yeah,
with
passion
the
prevails.
passion prevails, and a lot of these are responses from the players. But I did put my own thoughts in there too.
That's a great
Yeah.
idea, man. That's a really good
Because
idea.
look, what passion prevails because no matter what you're going through, the highs, the lows, if you have a passion for something, no one's going to be able to take that away from you.
100%.
So you have to keep going, and no matter what it is you're dealing with, if you're passionate about something, I felt like I was the most passionate guy on my team when I was playing. That'll help you pursue a career and have long-term success because we're playing the long game. We want to be in this for a long time, even if it's not as a player, because everyone's got to retire, right? Everyone's got to stop playing at some point. If we have passion for it, we're still going to find a way to be involved with the game and be able to contribute.
This is totally off topic, Billy, and I am known to do this. But you know what? Tom Brady is announcing today for the first time ever.
Yeah.
And, his passion for the game kept him in the game. So, dude, Billy, it's hard to understand that I'm still sitting here talking to a 22-year-old. Like that's you're wise beyond your years, man, which is a great
Thank
thing.
you.
So,
No, I appreciate it.
So now for our listeners out there, hopefully we're gonna send a lot of people to go check out this book. So tell us a little bit about the book and what we should expect. And who is it meant for?
Sure. Yeah. So it's definitely meant for the player who's maybe 12 to high school age range. And there's obviously adults and college kids and people throughout their whole life who can benefit from the lessons in there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have players, if you go right into the contents right here, we have quite a few players who you might know of. Guys like Eric Kratz, who is on Foul Territory, has his new show now. Former big leaguer, played for a while. The Mets hitting coach, actually, Jeremy Barnes. He also works with Eric Chavez, former big leaguer. He and I worked together with the Jackals in independent baseball years ago during my first couple years, and now he's with the Mets. So he gave his thoughts. A lot of guys I work with. And then you have a lot of former Yankees, guys like David Cohn, who threw some advice in there, and other players who have been around for a long time. And it's really just you can pick up any page, open it up. You don't have to read the whole thing in one shot, but you have different bits of info that might be able to stick with you if you're just heading to the ballpark or you're heading to the field and you want some inspiration, some motivation to not give up, to not give in to the pressures that you might be faced with, whether it's from your parents, whether it's from different coaches or people, or pressure you're creating for yourself. Because I know we could be very hard on ourselves as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely something that I just want to be a nice read, a simple read, but we're able to take some bites out of it and really think about it as you prepare to play or prepare for your next season.
Yeah, well, I know I'm gonna have to order, an autographed copy from you.
Definitely.
But that's how I learn the best in nuggets like that.
Yes.
Like I can, and silly as this may sound, Jake, don't laugh at me, but I can be scrolling through and one of these motivational pages has put something out there, and I read every one of those, and some of those are like, you know what? I've never looked at it that way. And like, I can learn so much from just little bits and pieces like that. That'll shift my life in some cases. So definitely going to have to pick it up because, I know it's about kids and adversity and some challenges. And, there's a lot of conversation these days around mental health for our young players. And, man, I don't see it getting any better.
Yeah,
with the social media part of everything, and it's all a double-edged sword. We love it for certain reasons, and we hate it for others. But it's challenging out there today.
Yeah, it definitely is.
I think Jake puts up with a lot more than I ever had to put up with, at my age, and I can't understand, how some of these guys do it.
Yeah, well, kids are opening up their phone, they're comparing themselves to other players in their age range, and it can be very difficult to just put it away and focus on your own game. And I think the driving stat for this book too is that 70% of youth athletes quit by age 13, and it's just not fun anymore. That's really the reason why. It's just they're not having fun, and they feel like it's more of a job, and they're not enjoying it. And that fun could be sucked out for various reasons. It might be different for everybody, but it's really challenging. So you have to know why you started in the first place. You started playing because you had fun and you enjoyed it. And once it becomes pressurized and you start looking around and who's getting this opportunity, who's playing on that travel team, who's getting a scholarship, that's going to start to eat at you then and make it less fun to play.
Yeah. And I think there's so many stories in sports, and I think this is why sports is so amazing, is there's so many underdog stories.
Oh, yeah.
And like, those are the stories that truly motivate me. I mean, Jake, you ever saw the movie Rudy?
I've heard of it, but I don't think I've ever watched it.
Oh, gotta watch it, dude. I mean, it's an inspirational story, and it's a true story. But I mean, there's so many of these, stories out there that are, I mean, incredible to hear, and hopefully kids, take inspiration from things like that, and really, but let's just talk a little bit about what adversity just exists for kids. I mean,
Mm.
social media. What else you feel pressure from, Jake?
Um, I don't like when I see like Instagram posts and it's showing a kid getting like the select vest, say for example.
Hmm.
When I saw like those rosters, I knew it was just because the kids had a name for themselves.
Oh, so it was more established names kind
Yeah.
of thing. Gotcha.
And
Well,
starting younger and younger too. A lot of young kids, and then if you see someone's name in there and your name's not part of it, you might get discouraged, and that might make you less motivated to train, or it can make you more motivated to go and train harder.
yep.
So it depends on the individual.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you really need a support group around you. And,
Sure.
Jake, I know you have that. But then, another factors that play into it, Billy, and I see this so much in the youth game is parents.
Oh,
Like, but parents do the comparisons too. And
oh yeah.
that is where it becomes completely not fair,
Oh yeah.
because a parent look, my baby is always the best, Billy, and I don't care what you say about your kid, but he's my kid's better, right? I
Yeah.
mean, and that's how it really is.
Yeah.
And parents carry that burden of, well, best friend over here, her kid just made this big Canes travel team or whatever the case may be, and now my baby's not, so he needs to go to practice every single night this week
Mm,
to get ready. And
yeah.
I don't
It's
know,
tough.
that's where, like, I could see driving kids away from the game. Is that's not fun. I
Right.
mean,
Oh, it's not. No.
like, I think kids should be taught to compete against themselves. Because at the end of the day, that's who's going to stop you from reaching your goals. I believe,
Yeah.
is yourself. Um,
For sure.
Sorry, Billy, I get on tangents sometimes and stuff like this. Now,
No.
Jake, what we haven't done today, and we haven't talked about this, but I don't know, have we done an episode where with getting benched? Have I told you this?
Mm,
Oh, so we came up with a new thing last week, and Billy, I apologize. I do this a lot too. So, but at any point in time where someone speaking is getting long or on a tangent and
yeah,
getting
we did.
boring,
I remember that.
clap your hands twice, and that I get benched. So, Billy, it's just a way for me to keep things fresh,
Oh,
because
that's
not
great.
everybody wants to freaking hear me talk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Lila's benched me a couple times. Feel free, Jake. But now look, I can do it to you.
Okay.
So anyway,
Oh
so let's
man.
keep moving. Billy, so as you've been going through your career and interviewing so many different people, have you ever had an interview that, like, in your head was going to go one way, but then you meet that person and the interview just completely, like, trips you up?
Oof. So it goes to the worst side. It doesn't go as planned.
Either way. No,
Either
either
way.
way.
That's a good question. That's a good question. I've been asked if there were any people who are a bit, standoffish
Well, I
or
didn't want
not.
to throw any names out there under the bus like
But
that, but
yeah, it's a really good question. I've been fortunate to talk to a lot of players who were great with talking to me, but I got to say, over in Dubai, there was a professional cricket player who
mhm.
is retired now. I think he threw, or I don't know what the terminology is, but he threw the fastest ball. He pitched or bowled. I think it's called
Yeah,
bowl.
bold. That's it. Bold.
Yeah, they bowled and he was there, and he had his whole entourage around him, and I was like, oh boy, like I got to interview this guy. I got to
Yeah.
interview this guy because it's more of that competitive thing in myself. I'm like, if I don't go up to this guy and ask him to do an interview, I'm gonna be thinking
You're
about
gonna
it all night.
regret it.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, so I was like, we're gonna go up to this guy. He's got his security dudes around him. He's straight faced, no expression, and I don't even know if he speaks English or not. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
even know. I really had no clue. I thought maybe one might be an interpreter. And I go up to him. I said, "Hey, can I ask you a couple questions?" He looked over to one of his handlers, and he looked at me, and they were like, "Okay." So we go over by the foul line in front of the dugout, and I started asking him a question, and then he was answering perfectly normal. It was like no problem at all. I
So
was like, oh, okay,
English and everything, no translator.
yeah, no translator. I'm like, okay, this actually went a lot better than I thought. This is pretty good. But sometimes I feel like you get some certain players or people involved who might be a little bit cautious
Mhm.
about who they're going to talk to or
What they're
what
going to
they're
be
going to be
asked.
asked because you
Yep.
never know. There are some
Yep.
people out there who are trying to dig and get
Load it
that
up. Yep.
juicy info. And I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not going to be like that. But they don't know that. So that was a pretty interesting one. I actually never posted the interview. I got to do that soon.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
like what did you take away from the interviews that you did over there? Like anything insightful? From an outside, I mean, truly an outsider from a baseball perspective. Like
Yeah.
anything cool?
It was interesting because I did talk to a few fans too, and they were actually American. So they were
Okay.
from the States, and then they just moved over to Dubai. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
interesting. And then a lot of the players too were just normal players you'd see around minor league baseball, major league baseball, and they all had a lot of similar things to say about the opportunity. But one interesting one was actually an interview with a beat writer from Japan.
Okay.
So this Japanese guy who covered baseball for a long time, and he was telling me that his favorite player was Pete Rose growing up, and
Wow.
how he went to different games. And we're talking about at the time, it's when Otani was a free agent, and
Yeah.
Yamamoto. We were trying to figure out where they would go, and just to experience the different cultures. There were so many diverse cultures there, from the not just the players, but staff and people who were covering it, everyone involved. So I definitely took away a lot from that international aspect of it.
Yeah.
So I think that was a pretty unique thing.
It has to be like just so eye opening to go to a country that you don't expect to talk baseball.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is no green grass. I mean, is there any green grass in the Middle East?
I mean, we got the cricket field, and that might be close to it, close to about it.
Is that turf or is that real grass? You wonder.
That was real grass, and
Oh,
they
was
had to chop it up essentially and like make it into a baseball field.
Wow.
But yeah, I'm trying to remember if there was grass. There was obviously a lot of sand. You could make a lot of beaches out of that sand.
Yeah, no kidding.
But
I remember seeing Tom Cruise. I don't know if you ever saw the Mission Impossible where he's like outside that the tallest building.
okay,
Like, he's out
I don't
there with
remember that
suction
scene.
cups.
Yeah,
So
okay.
he was literally on the outside of that building at the top. Now he had a bungee attached to him from a helicopter, but
Oh,
like I remember that movie, and then they had a sandstorm roll in, and like it was. I definitely know I want to go to Dubai. I don't care.
yeah. You got make sure you don't go when they make it rain because they see the clouds over there. They put droplets and they do cloud
They
seeding.
put like chemicals in the
So
air.
yeah, they make it rain, and then they don't have proper drainage, so it floods.
Oh.
Oh, I think it was a week before I went there. It was a decent little flood, and then probably more recently, way after I left, there was an actual legit flood throughout the
right.
whole city.
Let's just think about what it's like to be a meteorologist now in Dubai.
Yeah,
Hey guys, we know it's going to rain tomorrow. Listen, I'm willing to bet on it, and I mean that's pretty funny compared to our meteorologists. They're like, look, it's showing it, but who knows?
Yeah.
So that's funny.
no, it was crazy.
Well, man, what's baseball? What have you learned in your life in baseball? Like, what do you have something you can like pinpoint? Like, what is it about baseball that just kept you around?
I think one of the main things is just being around good people, just the chemistry and the relationships. I'm a big relationship guy. I love meeting new people. I like being around the players, and that's what really kept me going when I first started as an 11-year-old. Keeping up with the players, keeping in contact with them, texting them in the off season because I genuinely cared, and they were great guys, and just being able to establish those connections throughout the game, whether you're working in it, whether you're a player or coach. I just appreciated that. Like that's what I really learned is just how to create new relationships. And but on the lessons side, when you're dealing with the challenges and everything, failing, I firsthand witnessed guys who are really struggling and getting released, getting cut from the team, and also the good side, the positive side of getting signed by a big league club and then ultimately making it to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And I think one of the more special moments was when I was able to go to a major league ballpark and see a player who I worked with when I was much younger ultimately make it to the big leagues and just
wow.
see the kind of progress and what it took to ultimately get there. And that's what's inspired me. Seeing them eat peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every day and then go and have sushi and steak sandwiches at Yankee Stadium.
Hmm.
You see the kind of work ethic they have firsthand, and it's so difficult. It's obviously a difficult game. There's so much failure, and how do you handle the failure?
Yep.
That's really another key element to it, because it's so difficult when you're a player and you're losing games or your ERA is skyrocketing. How do you keep going? How do you show up the next day with a positive mentality? It could be tough. It could be really
Yeah.
difficult sometimes.
Well, that's what we try to tell kids here on the show is like, if you don't learn to love it at such an early age, like just love going to the park.
Hmm.
Love, whatever the drills are, you just love it. Like if you
Hmm.
don't learn to love that stuff early, when the game really does get hard, you won't find it fun anymore.
Right. You can't just love the punch out or the home run you hit,
Of
run on the
course.
bases. You have to be able to enjoy the process of it,
Yep.
because that'll help you work hard. The passion you have will help you work harder when things get tough.
Yep.
And no matter what career you're in, whatever industry or profession, you will experience those kinds of moments, the highs and then the
You sure
lows.
will.
But if you have that passion and you truly love it, it'll be much more smooth sailing, even though those situations might flux.
I feel like if you have the passion, you can always still see what the future could be.
Right.
Like you're still looking at the positive side of things. When you're ready to check out, all you're thinking is negative, and that's when your confidence is gone.
Right.
Like you've got to constantly be looking at, all right, what's the long game here? All right, I didn't make this team, or I struck out 4 times in this game, but what's the long game?
Right.
Next at bat, next game. I mean,
It might feel like the whole world's crashing down in the moment, but you just look beyond that a little bit and realize, you know what, it's really not as big of a deal as I'm making it out to be, or a big of a deal as my parents are making it out to be, or a
yeah.
coach, or whoever it is who might look at it as something like it's life or death, because you don't want to look at this as life or death either. That could
Yeah.
be very dangerous.
Oh, no doubt. Well, I mean, I remember last season I was coaching a flag football team, and we got handed to us. We got beat
Yeah.
pretty convincingly. And I'm looking at the kids at the end of the game, and this is a Saturday morning, 11 o'clock ish, beautiful day outside, and these kids are all like got their faces down, and I'm like, guys, look at this weather. Like, look, it is 11 o'clock on a Saturday. What are you guys doing the rest of the day? Like, you get out of the moment. Look, we lost. Yep, we did. We're going to get better. We're going to practice. We're going to work hard. But no, let's go talk about whatever else is out there. And just getting these kids to have a quick memory or a fast memory, I guess it is. I don't know if that's the right term, but just forget it. Move on. Let it
Memory of
go.
a goldfish.
Yeah, there you go. I heard that the other day.
Yeah.
Someone used that one. Jake, what you got, bud?
So since you were 11 years old and you were in the clubhouse with all those players, what player did you look up to the most when you were in like college and stuff?
Wow. Yeah, I feel like each year is another person who I was looking up to, and it's really cool to look back on. But yeah, every year it changes, because as you get older, there might be other people you gravitate towards. It might make more sense at this age because there's a player who has a similar, maybe it's body type to you, and you could learn from their mechanics or whatever it is. So I ultimately had a pitching coach who played for the team I work for, Isaac Pavlik, and he was a pitcher, not a very tall guy, and I'm not super tall either. So that was a nice little fit. So he helped me out in the off season, prepare for the upcoming year, and from the pitching side. And you find moments like that to talk to players and try to pick their brain a little bit. You can't be afraid to ask them some questions about technique, and they're usually really willing to talk to you about it and help you out, because it's something that they remember asking other people as well, and
Right.
they love giving back. So that's definitely interesting, because it evolves. You have players who, I remember my first year, there were some guys who I'd be sitting on the couch, and then I'm looking up to these guys, and it's cool to see them interacting with me. But then they retire, and they stopped playing. And that was actually kind of sad. The first year when some players, retired and they stopped playing, it's kind of tough, but you find other players who can serve as inspirations and role models. And I had 25 of them every year. So that was really cool.
Yeah, like seeing those
So
players at such a young age, I feel like is just a cool feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't like I was in the Yankees clubhouse or with the guys who are big league all-stars every year, but it felt like that to me. It felt like I was with guys who were the best of the best. And there were a lot of guys who were, you look at the percentage breakdowns, they were some of the better players that you'd have in this country, even though it's professional baseball. It's tough to do.
It is. I mean, like people don't realize like the odds to getting to the MLB, because there's so many stops along the way.
Yeah.
I mean, very few. I don't remember. I mean, Bryce Harper didn't spend too many time. I don't think he spent too much time in the minors, but
Right.
like it's hard.
Yeah.
Some players propel like they're boost shot out of the cannon out of high school, and then they live the rest of their life in Double-A. I mean,
Oh yeah.
and I feel like that's the players that we really need to talk to. Like, let's learn about them and what they've dealt with.
Yeah, and that's a really difficult mental transition for them. That's a very difficult thing because there have been players who were first-round draft picks, studs out of high school, and just did not pan out. They just couldn't hit. Fantastic fielders, could not hit the ball. And you have those so-called busts that just didn't work out, and some of them understand where they're at, and it is what it is, and some are miserable because they think they should be in the show. They kind of were let down for whatever reason, whatever happened. But it can be really difficult because there are some really talented players, but for most of them, especially in the minor leagues, you could pinpoint maybe one thing on each of them, why they're here. What's the reason for it? Is it an attitude thing? Is it a struggle with their mechanics? Was it inconsistency? A lot of times it's inconsistency, and they're not being as consistent as they should be. And it's been interesting to break that down and really think about that throughout the years.
That's a good book to read right there, or to write for you and read for me. But like just what it takes, what you've learned, because you've seen it like your entire life for the most part, like what it takes, what is that special thing that you can put your hand on, your finger on, that like to make it to the big show, like what's needed, and like the personality. And because I mean, man, it's not easy. I mean, I know every kid wants to play in the MLB, but are you ready to go through what it takes?
Yeah.
And I think that's where the passion comes in, Billy. Just like
it does. If you're passionate, you'll find a way, and you'll be more dedicated and motivated to figure that out, and it'll be easier to deal with the struggles.
Yeah. Because to me, Jake, struggles are just obstacles.
Yeah.
You just got to get through them. I mean, anyway, all right. So I got to ask, let me ask Jake this. All right. So we've interviewed Billy for, it's 48 minutes. The dude's from New Jersey. Want to take a gamble on what his favorite MLB team is?
Ooh.
I mean, I think I know. I saw what you did. I think I know. But what do you think, man? He was born in Jersey. What do you think?
Wait, I forgot where Jersey's on the map. Wait.
Oh my gosh. It's right below New York.
Yankees.
Right there right there.
Yeah. Big Yankee guy. We got some.
He's a Yankees dude.
We got some Yankees. We got the
Red Sox
logo
Red
here.
Sox.
You're a Red Sox fan? Oh boy.
Ding!
No.
Y'all go at it.
I got a couple buddies who are Red Sox fans, so I'm used to it. A lot of Mets fans around here too. So when I was growing up, and the Mets were actually pretty good during the 2015 era, World Series era.
Yeah.
I always had to hear it because they were winning more games than the Yankees were back then, back in middle school.
But that didn't last long.
Didn't last long. It was short lived. It's okay.
But I think baseball needs the Mets to do good though. I feel like that's one of those teams where, like, if the Mets are doing well, MLB's doing well. Like,
sure.
There's some of those. I mean, the Yankees are the same way. The Red Sox. Those teams. Like, I feel like that's when like the league's doing well. I don't know. I have no clue.
I got nothing
Billy.
against the Mets. They could win all they want.
Well, that's right, because they're in the National League anyway. I mean, they ain't gonna make it to the big show. So
Yeah.
nah, I'm just kidding. For
We'll
all the
see.
Mets fans out there, I don't have any bias. I don't have any problem with you. So it's okay. So Yankees fan. All right, let me tell you who I grew up, and everyone on this show that listens to this show knows this story. But I grew up loving Jose Canseco.
Ooh.
And like now I'm a bit older than you, Billy. So I'm 2 times and a little bit more. So So I grew up during the Bash Brother days, and I always wanted to see Canseco in a Yankees jersey. And he got that opportunity, but just way too late. So was that in the era as you were watching the Yankees? Did Canseco make it in there in that window?
I don't think no. He was a bit before that. I barely remember 09, the World Series.
Oh yeah.
So
well, yeah, you were young.
I was a bit young there. I remember 2010 and on pretty much 11, 12. Those are the years I really remember with the Giants winning and the Cardinals. I remember those years pretty well. But
so did you get to watch Bernie play?
Bernie, I don't remember his career.
No.
He probably just retired before I really remember.
That dude drove me crazy.
Yeah.
I wasn't ever pulling for the Yankees.
Yeah.
And, dude, he just didn't have this like big monstrous like command batter's box presence, and I'm like, strike the dude out.
Yeah.
And he would always find a way. I mean, solid guy. All right, who's your favorite MLB player? Like if you had to put that one dude up there as a fan, Billy, not as in the press, who was that guy?
Oh boy, it's so hard because back when I was growing up, it was Jeter because everyone's favorite player was Jeter.
There you go. Okay.
But now I'd say right now the traditional answer is Judge, right? If you're a Yankee fan, but it's tough because, like I said, I've gotten to know some players, and one of the players who played for the Jackals is on the Reds right now. Fernando Cruz. He's a reliever.
Oh, okay.
And he pitched against the Mets the other day to start the game, and he pitched against the Yankees this year a couple times. So I have to say him. He's up there because I know him. A few other guys who I've just gotten to know a little bit throughout the league. But as far as a Yankee fan, if you're like a fan, you can't go wrong with Judge, right?
Yeah, 99's where you're hanging it. So
yeah. So it's,
Jake, who's your favorite player right now? I know you're a Red Sox fan, but like, do you have that favorite player?
Rafael Devers or Jarren Duran.
Okay.
There we go. Two
Billy,
solid picks.
This sounds weird coming from the host of a baseball podcast, but I know more youth baseball players than I do MLB players these days, man. Like, I'm gonna tell you, like
that could be a good thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, look, I look at every one of these dudes and ladies that come on this show as superstars themselves, and that's how I try to treat it. Now, Jake was a superstar back in the day, but now he's slipping a little bit on my list, but.
Not anymore.
I'm just kidding you, Jake. I'm just kidding. All right, man. Well, we're getting close to the end here, man. So, got to ask you our last question. Jake, you want to ask it?
I don't know how to set it up. All right, I got it.
Okay. All right. You want to think about it, or you want me to go ahead and do it? All right.
So, it all depends on you. Games on the line, bottom of the ninth, and you have to walk it off in the Game 7 of the World Series. What's your walk-up song?
Oh, walk-up song? At that point,
he's going to put all the other situations on you there.
That's tough. Yeah, because it might be a little bit of a different vibe than a regular, Thursday night at the ballpark in the summer, middle of the summer.
Yeah.
Different vibe. Oh boy.
What you need to get you in there?
I might have to go with something more. I might have to go with something more classic in that situation. Maybe some type of. Oh man, I'm gonna go with like something like Thunderstruck or something old school that's more hard, more you could like really get going with it.
Something you sink your teeth into.
Yeah. In that situation. Now, if it was something during the regular season, maybe something more light, but maybe something pop based or something. But yeah, in that situation though, I got to go with something like rock or heavy metal or something.
There we go. That's what I grew up listening to. So that's okay. I'm all about some AC/DC. And
there we go.
80s rock's the best.
Love it.
That's what I say. So, Banana Jake, you got any final thoughts for Billy? Any final questions?
No, sir. Just keep on doing what you're doing. Awesome. It's good.
Thank you. You too. You too. Keep going.
I think your story is such a great inspiration for kids like this. And I think it's amazing that you've, wrote a book that's catered to kids like Jake.
Right.
And I think it's pretty amazing what you're doing. And I hope that's, sometimes in social media, you're like, why does this dude got so many followers? Like he's not positive. But like, I hope to see you continue to grow, man. Like, I think you've got such an amazing career ahead of you. And, so I don't even think I need to give you any words of encouragement because I think you got it, dude. I think you got the passion, and passion will prevail, Billy.
Yes, sir. No, I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Great stuff.
All right. So we're at the end of the show. We got one last thing for you because you got to close the show for us. So I'm going to take a second here and thank everyone for listening and make sure they're subscribing. By the way, go subscribe. And at the end of the show, we're going to finish it off. And we're, Jake, you want to close it or you want me to do it? Okay. So we're going to close it. I'm going to say until next time, Billy. And then you're going to say, we'll catch you on the slide.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, cool. Well, listen, for everyone out there listening, watching us, this was such an amazing interview to get ready for, to study up on, and as well as just to hear Billy talk. So, Billy, tell us how we can find you on social media.
Yeah, you could check out the website, BillyTheBatBoy.com, YouTube, Billy the Bat Boy. Socials are all the same. Everything's Billy the Bat Boy.
All right. And where can we buy your book? Go tell us where we can buy it.
Yeah, it's only on Amazon. So Passion Prevails on Amazon. Yes, sir.
Dude, we've had 2 authors on the show in the last two episodes.
I love that.
That happened. But yeah, 11-year-old Michael, he's written a book.
Oh,
He
yeah.
written like a science fiction book. Yeah, 11 years old,
awesome.
12 years old.
Let's go. That's awesome.
I know it.
That's
man.
great. That age, man.
Hey, he's from the Bronx too, man.
No way.
So, yeah.
Wow.
So that's the beauty of the show, man, is we get to highlight some of these kids' skills, and for everyone out there listening, watching, again, thank you very much for hanging with us for such a long time. If you're new to us, make sure if you know a superstar standout, a great person, someone that's completely passionate about the game of baseball, or coming in the future, Jake, softball, send them our way. Like that's who we want to introduce to the world. So, and Jake, this past update on our listeners, we were over 10% in France, dude. Like France likes to slide.
Yeah.
So usually it's like Canada or England or Europe, but yeah, France coming out of nowhere listening. So anyway, we love you guys. Thank you very much, Jake. Thank you very much for taking time out of your Sunday. Billy, the same to you. But until next time, Billy.
We'll catch you on the slide.
Here we go.
We thank you for toughing it out and pushing through. Now, let's go teach the world great sportsmanship, leadership, to go inspire someone through your dedication and excitement for the game. Make sure to smash the like and follow button on all social media at The Slide Podcast Show and The Slide Pod on Twitter. Plus, leave us a review and feedback. Until next time, we'll catch